Hello everybody, I'm Miss Lisa. Welcome back to ARTREE Goes Almost Live. Today in our 12th episode, we are going to be talking about our still life project, and we're going to be finishing our beautiful still life of a bowl with fruits. The things that you will need today are your fruit paintings that we've been working on. You need to have a black piece of construction paper. Another color will be fine as well. Black works really nicely. And this piece of paper should be a full-size piece of construction paper. You will also need a pair of scissors, and we will talk about the safe way to use scissors. You will need a bottle of glue, and you will need your watercolor paints and a piece of white drawing or painting paper, because the first thing we are going to do is make the bowl, and we'll paint our bowl, and then we'll get around to using our scissors and the paintings that we did last week. So now if you think back to 2 weeks ago when I was explaining to you how to draw a bowl, we are going to be making a larger bowl because we want something that's big enough to put some of our fruit inside. We don't need to put all of the fruit in the bowl, as in this example here. The bowl is pretty full of fruit, and we can put the extra pieces down around the bowl to help fill up the space and really give this just a beautiful, beautiful look. So let's review for a minute. What happens when we see a bowl? When we see a bowl, our brain is thinking round, and it's thinking flat. So it's thinking round on the top, flat on the bottom. But when we actually draw a bowl for our still life, we're not drawing it from the top usually. We're usually drawing the view from the side, not completely from the side, but about like this. We're looking at the bowl of fruit on the table, and what happens is that this circle now becomes an oval shape. Can you see how it looks more like an oval than a circle? If we were looking straight down into the bowl, it would look like a circle, but as we turn the bowl like this, it looks more like an oval shape. And you might also notice how the color is darker inside because the light isn't really getting into the center of the bowl in the same way as if we were just looking straight down into an empty bowl. So let's think about what we're going to be doing here. We're thinking oval shape, and we're thinking curved side. And remember, although the bowl is flat on the bottom, we want it to be a little bit rounded as it sits on the table. It will appear to be slightly rounded. And so if you turn your paper horizontally and fill up some of that space, don't make a little bowl because you've got these nice pieces of fruit. I would make the oval shape about this size, and I'm going to go round and round and round until I'm happy with that oval. So I've got a nice oval shape, and then I'm going to be thinking curved line down, curved line down. So let's do that next. Curved line down, curved line down. And then I'm just going to bring this down further, and this part down further until they can connect together. And then you can see that on this pottery bowl, it actually has a little base. It's called the foot of the bowl, and this is not colored. It's still the clay. that's showing. And so I'm just going to draw that with a curved line like so. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this bowl, and then I'm going to let it dry as we work on the fruit. And I'm going to be using a larger brush. So far I've been using this brush that comes with the paint set. I'm going to be using a slightly larger brush now because I want to paint this pretty quickly. You don't need a larger brush, but it might take you longer to paint your bowl. So I'm going to just put water down first. And then I'm going to go into that blue. I'm going to put some blue right into that water. And the water that's on the paper will help the color move. So more water, more paint. You can have a lot of fun with this part. You can decorate your bowl with a pattern if you want. You can just pause the video and have a good time decorating your bowl. I'm going to do it pretty quickly because I have a lot to show you still. See how I'm pulling the brush along very gently, moving the paint, not scrubbing my brush into the paper at all. Gentle with the brush. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of a darker color inside the bowl. I think I'll use purple. Now it doesn't really matter too much about the inside of the bowl because a lot of it is going to be covered with the fruit, and I'll show you that in a minute. And what I'm also going to do is leave a tiny bit of white showing between the darker color and that blue, because as I told you before, if the colors go right up to each other, the water from the wet paint will help move the pigment, and you'll get some blending, which was great when we were making some of our fruit and we wanted those colors blended. But I think for this part I'm just going to try to keep a little bit of dry paper in between the two wet paints so that they won't run together, so that I can keep my darker purple or violet color separate from the blue. So I'm just pulling that along. And maybe I'll even drop a little bit of blue into that purple. And I'll let the colors mix. So remember from the color wheel, when we mix the blue and the violet together, we're going to get this lovely deep dark blue violet. And that's what I'm doing now because both paints are wet, so the colors will blend. The water that we put down first in the violet color is still wet, and the blue will now blend into that color. The last thing I want to do is just put a tiny bit of brown at the bottom of the bowl here. And again, I'm going to try to keep a little bit of dry paper between the brown and the blue so the colors do not blend together. Now I've just touched that brown into that blue. We'll see what happens. But what I'm going to do now is just move this to the side, and we're going to let that dry. And we're going to start thinking about our fruit. Now what we need to do is cut out these pieces of fruit. So I want to show you an easier way to use scissors. Usually when we cut things out, we struggle, and I have seen a lot of struggling with scissors. But what I want to do is show you that the first thing to do is to cut the pieces apart so we have less to worry about. And then I'm going to show you the easier way to use scissors. Remember that one hand holds the scissors, the other hand holds the paper, and the hand that's holding the paper, we're always thinking, where is my hand, so that we don't cut it by accident with our scissors. So my hand is here, my scissors are over here. But when we start looking at the smaller pieces of fruit, we'll see that our fingers get very close to the scissors. So we always have to think about where our fingers are in relation to the scissors. So here are my grapes, my orange, look how nicely the colors on the peach blended together as we let that one dry. And this was my extra apple that I didn't paint. Here's my plum. All right. So now let me show you how to use your scissors. The hand that you hold the scissors with just simply goes open, shut, open, shut. The hand that's holding what you want to be cutting is churning the paper. So this hand just says open, shut, open, shut. This one turns the paper. And in this case now my fingers are close to the area that I'm going to be cutting. So I always have to think, where are my fingers, to keep them away from the scissors. So I'm using this hand to turn the paper. My other hand is just going open, shut with the scissors. I'm not moving my scissors around, they're just going open, shut, open, shut. See how easy that was? Here's my plum. Around and around that plum. When we get to the stem, we might want to turn. See how this hand does all the work? It's turning the paper. The other hand is just going open, shut, open, shut. Now I'm left-handed with scissors, so if this looks a little bit funny to you, you might be right-handed with the scissors. Doesn't matter. If you're right-handed with the scissors, then your left hand will be turning the paper, and your right hand will just be going open, shut, open, shut. But for me, because I'm left-handed with the scissors, my right hand is doing most of the work. You can see it's turning the paper very nicely, and it's very easy for me to cut these pieces of fruit out. Here's a challenge. It's a little line, so I'm going to have to be very careful about where my fingers are. We'll do the grapes last of all because that one's a little bit tricky. And if you need to pause the video at any time, go right ahead. I have spent a lot of my life cutting things out of paper. Let's do the lemon next. There goes my right hand turning the paper again. Stops just a second there to get around the end of the lemon, sorry. Here's our other pair. If your hands are getting tired, you can pause the video and come back to this a little bit later. But we do want to cut out our fruit neatly as possible, and I'll show you why in just a minute. And if you find this difficult, no worries, because the more you practice with scissors, the easier it gets. So if you're trying your best, no worries, it will get easier in time. I used to be very bad with scissors because I didn't know I was left-handed with scissors. I usually write with my right hand, and so I just assumed that I was right-handed with scissors. So I struggled for years before I realized I was actually left-handed with scissors. Okay, we have one more piece left, and we're back to the grapes. Now there's two ways we can approach this. The first way is just like we were doing before, where we're very carefully going around each of these little circles. And again, one hand is controlling the scissors, open, shut, open, shut. The other hand has quite a lot of work to do as it turns the paper, because these are fiddly little grapes. So we have to turn the paper quite a lot. And this is how I would cut out the grapes. I would just continue in this way. But I'll show you a different way as well. If we cut out around the outside of the whole bunch like this, and just add the stem in there. So I'm basically cutting around the whole outside shape. And every time I go past a grape, I just skim the outside of the grape with scissors. And then I'm going to go straight across and skim this one. And I'll just go straight down here like this. And that last one I'll go around that grape. So we could say we roughly cut this bunch out. We can see that it's a bunch of grapes. And then all you need to do is cut out the little parts that are in between. So we want to cut this piece out, all the little white parts that are in your bunch of grapes. And cut out this piece here. And cut out this big piece. Look how nicely this hand is turning the paper. It's got a lot of work to do. And then there's this little piece here. And there's a little piece there, and a little piece here. All right, so there's our bunch of grapes. So now we have our fruit cut out, and we've painted our bowl. And the next thing we're going to do is cut out the bowl. Now I would let this dry completely before you try to cut it out. So I'm going to go ahead and cut mine out so I can show you what we're going to do next. If the bowl is still wet, if the paper is wet, it is very easy to tear. So I'm going to be extra careful because I know that it's easy to tear, but you might want to wait till yours dries completely. You can put it outside in the sunshine for 10 minutes and that'll help a lot. All right, now here's what we're going to do next. And if you're a young child, you might need some help with this. So this is what I'm going to show you, and maybe somebody can help you do this next cut because this is tricky. We're going to make a little snip. So we folded the edge over and we're just making a tiny snip, just enough to get our scissors through it. You might need to make mine a little bit bigger. There we go. We're going to put our scissors in there and we're going to cut along the top of the bowl. And this is, again, much easier to do when the paper is dry. So if your bowl is still wet, let it dry a little bit more before you try this. So I'm not going to go completely to the end. So you can see it's still attached on this end and it's still attached on this end, but it's got a cut from here to here. And then what I'm going to do is take my piece of black paper and put my bowl down on my paper. I'll just move these fruits. And what we're going to do is decide where we want the bowl. I think right about there is good for me because that'll leave me some space on the sides. And what we're going to do is we can arrange the fruit inside the bowl now by slipping it in here, just like that. Okay, so let's get our glue, open our glue, and we're going to glue around the bowl like this. Not too much glue, and we don't want to glue in the middle. We just want to go around the edges. We want to leave this part unglued because when we start sliding the fruit into the bowl, we need to be able to put them in without the glue holding it shut. Okay, so I'm going to gently tap this down. Okay, my bowl is stuck to my paper, and this is still free to open up. And I'm going to start arranging my fruit. I'm not going to glue anything in yet. I'm just going to arrange it first and think about how I might want it to look. Do I want my banana in the bowl this time? Perhaps. I'll put the banana here. I kind of like the grapes coming out of the bowl. I think that always looks kind of cool. So maybe I'll put my grapes here. Let me put them this way. Maybe the orange now goes here. But then I've got orange here, so I want to put my apple here. And maybe my peach here. And maybe that plum right up there. And I've got 2 oranges, so I'm going to leave one of them out. Maybe this pear will be down here, and this orange like that. I've got 2 limes, but I do like the green. I think I'll leave one there and one here, and I'll put the lemon down here with this lime. Yes, I like that arrangement. Okay, so after you decide how you want your fruit arranged in the bowl, I'm just going to change it a little bit because I'm thinking about where the stems are pointing, and maybe I'll just make this one pointing that way. I like this arrangement now. So I'm going to very carefully take my glue and start gluing the back of my fruit. You can take the whole thing off and try to remember how it was arranged and just glue it piece by piece, but I find it's hard to get everything back in the same place. So for the most part, see if you can just pull up little bits of your arrangement and put some glue behind those pieces of fruit. So my banana, I'm going to put some glue here and a little bit on the top. My lime, a little bit of glue here. Slide it back into the pocket. My grapes, bit of glue there, and I'll probably put some down here too. And my plum. My apple comes next. And that leaves the peach. A tiny bit there on the back of the stem to hold that in place. So everything should be glued down now. And as this dries, it'll stay in place. You can check your gluing just by picking it up and gently shaking it. If anything falls off, that's the piece you forgot to glue down. There we go. So we have done another still life. Here's the example. This one looks slightly different, but we've got all of our fruit on there except our extra orange and our extra apple. And I love these still lifes against black. And I love the blue bowl. We were talking about colors in the last class, and we painted a color wheel. And one thing I want to tell you about the still life, which the color wheel also emphasizes, is that we've got some beautiful, what are called complementary colors. Complementary colors are colors that are opposite from each other on the color wheel. And when we do the still life with a blue bowl, we get this beautiful orange and blue combination because the bright orange, and there's a bit of orange in the pear and the peach as well, but this orange against the blue is very striking. And we also have another complementary pair that comes up in this fruit still life. We've got the red and the green pair, and we've also got the red violet and yellow green here. We've got the red violet, the yellow green of the grapes. So this is still life of fruit in a blue bowl. It's just a really striking piece of art. It will look great on your wall. I hope you had fun doing it. We learned how to draw fruit, we learned how to paint fruit, and today we learned how to use scissors simply and effectively. And from now on, you can do this project as many times as you like. It always turns out beautifully, and the more you practice drawing and painting and cutting out your fruit, the better and better you'll get at this. It just becomes a wonderful opportunity to keep doing art and being creative. So that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this. When we come back again next week, I'm going to be talking more about color because I love color and I think you will too. I'm going to tell you some really cool stuff about color, and until then, stay safe, have fun, and stay at home. Thank you. Goodbye.